one of the striking things about the definition that we find in the essential features of the unity is that it states the inference that we can make is that community is the heart of the church. If the church is the place where God's fellowship with human beings becomes a reality, then community is not simply the heart of the church, but the church is a community. As Craig just stated from our history and theology, the church is a community and exists for community. The Reverend Julius Corpening, who we mentioned a few moments ago, gave a presentation to the people assembled at the 1969 Special Synod of the Southern Province, and he said that neighborhoods are changing. And as neighborhoods are changing, too many churches have become disconnected from their neighbors. For a variety of reasons. He said church members no longer live in the surrounding neighborhood. A church that maybe once was established as the place where people lived and worked and assembled together was no longer the case. And so the neighborhood was changing. And and the neighbors in the surrounding community were no longer members of the church. And he said that to reconnect with our neighborhoods, we have to demonstrate a willingness to listen to them, to befriend, and to learn to share in dialogue with people who are not like us, people whom we do not know, people with whom we do not share our everyday lives, that perhaps we might begin to share life together so that there would not be an us and them, there would be only a we. There would be a church, reconnected and re-engaged with its community, with its neighbors. And it's in that context that he then said, discipleship in this world is complex. And there isn't a one-size-fits-all way of going about reconnecting with your neighbors. You have to adapt to your own situation. There were a number of different segments of presentations that were made and a number of different committees that were arranged, organized in the Special Synod of 1969. And one of them was called Responsibility of the Church in Society. And in one of the resolutions, perhaps one of the most profound resolutions that came out of this synod, they said, Christ spoke to us of God's work in the lives of human beings by saying, I came that they might have life and have it more abundantly. And then they said, but it's obvious to us that humankind is suffering from guilt and loneliness and fears and divisions and hatreds and prejudices and war and violence and physical needs and dehumanizing poverty, all of which keeps people from experiencing the abundance of living that Christ has promised to us. So then they went on. That was in the whereases, which is the things that they state as being factual. We know this to be true. Therefore, be it resolved that our church would state its mission in the following ways, a threefold arrangement of the church's mission. First, that we would share the good news of God's love and forgiveness and spiritual salvation in the Savior Jesus Christ, that we would preach and teach and share and witness together by word, by messages, by storytelling, who we are and who God has called us to be. We would also show the good news of God's love and forgiveness by loving action so that we might win the right to share what's on the inside, what's in our hearts, what we have come to know about God's love and mercy and grace. And then they said, but we will also take public stands for things, for that which we believe denies and destroys the abundance of living for people generally in our society. And at that time, in addition to the many legacies of racism and discrimination, they named housing and education and peace and the equality of opportunity that our neighbors might have. The Special Synod of 1969. It is special indeed. And then they went on and they said, be it further resolved that our church, maybe it was intended to say it twice, that our church will fulfill this mission in the following way. by partnership with Christian communities and agencies across traditions, by substantial investment of our financial resources, by particularizing our mission and ministry to the needs of particular communities, by experimenting with new forms of ministry, and by establishing new church communities in areas other than in suburban settings. How do you read the last one? What is an area other than a suburban setting? In the inner city, yeah. Also, certainly by this time, there was an awareness, I think, in the consciousness of people of the poverty in rural areas as well, those fringes of societies. And so I sort of read it as both. But yeah, that we need to establish new church communities, sharing life with people beyond just the places that we normally planned and strategically designed ways, places where we would build a church building. And related to the last one, they said that we understand that if we do that, if we engage with the mission of the church in that way, we're confident that a church like this, that's maybe intercultural or maybe is established for people who don't have the same means of well-being, would not be self-supporting in the ways as we understand it. By this time, it was written publicly in the provincial documents that churches needed to be self-supporting within 5 years. And yes, Tom.
I just noticed all these things are truly wonderful, but there's nothing there about reestablishing contact with our essentials or our roots spiritually.
Yeah.
It's good, but it's not enough.
No, I thank you for sharing that, and I think we should hold that. My presentation is to add to what Craig has said, and so I think we're all, as I like to say, discernment is always addition, and as we're assembling all of this information today, we're all praying together as to what it means for us.